Hey, this is Aquayard. Just wanted to show everyone my Japanese trapdoor snails. Before I go through what I have here, I'm just gonna start by saying that I am not a recording expert, not really a YouTube guy. I just wanted to show you what I have available to me now. I am recording from an iPhone, so if it's not perfect content creator quality, bear with me. I'm just taking you through my quick setup here. There's about 13, maybe 14 adult snails in here. And then I have about 8 juveniles that have spawned since putting the adults in here. So I purchased a bulk order of 50 trapdoor snails, and they sent me 62 as extras in case any died. So I thought to myself, maybe I'll just take the surplus, the 12 extra snails they gave me, and see if they'll reproduce. And sure enough, I already have some babies, and it's just been 3 weeks or so. So the setup I have isn't too fancy or crazy. It's literally just a plastic tote that I found in my basement. And I'll take you through everything that's in it, but first things first, I'll show you the snails, and I won't show you all of them. I'll just show you a quick variety of them. Then I'll also talk about the minnows you see swimming out in here too. So these are some of the snails. As you can see, the shells are really eroded. They actually came this way. I believe they were raised in ponds or something, and they didn't have all the nutrients they needed to keep their shells healthy. So I am giving them eggshell supplements right here. Well, not really supplement, just cracked eggshell. And then I'm also giving them algae wafers and shrimp cuisine. So they're getting all kinds of calcium and nutrients now, and hopefully their shells will start rebuilding here. But the juveniles so far, the babies, the offspring, they all look really well. So I think their diet's on track now. We just have to see how well they repair. Let me grab one out for you so you can see. This guy right here doesn't look too hot. He's latched on. I might not be able to grab him. Here he comes. Yeah, so this is just an example of what you can expect when you get some of these snails from these snail farms. They're just heavily eroded and broken down from lack of nutrients. And I actually have a bit of the algae wafer on my fingernail here. So put that guy back down there. So this is the main tank here. I also have a small little quarantine bucket. These are 3 that my son found out in the pond that I wasn't planning on bringing in, but he found them out in my main pond where I put the 50 snails and brought them to me. So I'm going to quarantine them for 2 to 3 weeks, and then I'll put them in the main tank here. In the main tank, there's adult snails, and then there's also fathead minnows. These were minnows that I purchased from a local fish farm, and I thought to myself, maybe I'll just throw them in there and see how they do. And they've been doing really well. There was about 10 or 11 of them. I don't know if they're going to spawn or not. They might. This was just more of an experiment to just toss them in there and see how they do. And so far, they're doing really well. The wood in here is it's apple wood from a tree I have out back. I didn't buy any driftwood or anything. I just thought it would be cooler to use what I have in my backyard. So that's what I did. I did boil it and all that, try to get as many tannins out as possible. And there are still some that leak out, but it's really not bad. I still do water changes once a week, so they're looking really good. And I did attach Java fern to this piece right here. I bought the Java fern from Aquarium Co-op. They sell really good plants. And I also bought a Java moss mat, which is down here. And then I did buy some Anubias Petite, also from Aquarium Co-op. So those 3 plants there from Aquarium Co-op. And then the pothos plant. I think this is called Marble Queen. Not too sure, but this is just from a house plant I have, and I know pothos does really good in aquariums, so I'm kind of experimenting with it. And it's definitely growing. This was not growing out yet, and this leaf's starting to open already, so I know it's definitely doing its part. So the plan is to just get more of them and help me with filtering the nitrites and the nitrates and all that, just a little bit more healthy natural aquarium. And it's the same thing with this one. This one actually, it's nodes or whatever you want to call it. The roots haven't started poking through yet. There's just nodes hanging out there, those little brown bumps. So hopefully soon this guy will catch up. I am having some doubts on it, but we'll see how it goes. The rocks are also from my pond, my natural pond, my farm pond that's out back. I just boiled them for a while and threw them in there. There's 3 of them in there. And there's 2 sponge filters. One's a 40-gallon sponge filter, which is definitely overkill for this, but I have plans for this sponge filter later. That's to put it in a larger aquarium that's right there, 55-gallon tank. So I do plan on using that sponge filter later. And then I also have a 10-gallon sponge filter that's not doing anything. It's just, I have it sitting in here to collect bacteria and media and all that. So more or less cycle it. I will likely use that in the bucket that's over here. Just to, you know, keep the bucket aerated. The water level is really, really low. I am doing frequent water changes on it. So don't be worried about the water level being low. They're doing just fine in there. You'll also see there's some plants in there. Those are actually Java ferns. I can't remember the technical name for it, but they are the Java ferns over here. These ones, they are producing younger plants. So I've just been removing them from the leaves and throwing them in there. There's 3 or so. There's one there, and one there, and all that snail poop. I do have a heater in here as well. It's one of those preset heaters. I think it's preset to 75. You can't adjust the temperature on it, which is kind of a bummer. I should have paid more attention when I ordered it, but it's actually working fine in this setup. And I do have an air stone within the sponge filter. Just because the bubbles were really loud before, and I saw a video also from Aquarium Co-op where you can throw a little air stone in there for a little better management of the bubbles and a little quieter operation. So that's that. The Java fern and the Anubias plants, they're super glued on. So I did glue their rhizomes to the wood. That worked perfectly. This is just an experiment. It's literally just a free sitting plant. And this one I zip tied. I don't know. I'm just messing around. I think this is just I don't know, maybe a 15-gallon tote or so. I'm not sure on that, but pretty small. And I'll see if I can get you a closer shot of some of there's one of the juveniles right there, dead center on the apple wood. Yeah, so there you go. There's one baby right there. There's another one. They do like to hang out in there. And sometimes they'll be on the outer edge of the filter. I don't see any other ones, but there's a little more clear view, a little less noisy view of the setup. There's one of the larger adult snails. There's some juveniles there. If I had to guess right now, I probably have, I'm gonna say there's about 8 juveniles in here, which I'm actually pretty pleased with considering it's been a short amount of time, maybe 3 weeks since I moved the snails in here. And then once these guys are all quarantined, I'll put them into the main tank. And I do have some more apple wood that I'm soaking outside. That I plan to incorporate that also into the 55-gallon setup over there. Nothing too fancy, just a tote sitting on some cinder blocks. And I don't think it's really necessary, but I did put a little foam or rubber mat in between there just to stop the cinder blocks from scratching the tote. But Right now the plan is to use a 55 in the somewhat near future. I still have to rinse some sand, some aquarium sand, and I actually have to get a heater and possibly some lighting and a lid. My lighting is nothing fancy right now. It's just a broken lamp that I super glued back together, and instead of throwing it out, I use it on a timer, a little Wi-Fi timer right here. And it runs 3 or 4 hours a day. I think it's just 3 hours right now because all the plants I have in here, they are not fussy plants and they don't need a whole lot of lighting. So I'm not running the lights very much. Here's the bigger one, by the way, if you wanted to get a closer look at it. Their shells are they came in just really rough shape. And if you were curious, by the way, this is why they call them trapdoor snails. They basically pull in tight and use this. I think it's called an operculum. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but that's their defense mechanism. So this one's got scratches and gouges in it and just different levels of decay, but all in all seems to be doing pretty well. And I'll grab one of the juveniles if I can. They're kind of hard to grab, to be honest with you. They're here we go, I got one. Because they're so small and my fingers are a little bit on the larger side, they can be a little tricky to hold. But as you can see here, there's no signs of shell decay or nutrient deficiency here. So I think we're on the right track with their feeding regimen. So I'll put this guy on the moss mat next to the other one that I don't think is alive anymore. But yeah, I was finding baby snails right away. You know, within the first few days, I think I saw my first snail rolling around. So having 8 or 9 juveniles within a few weeks is pretty impressive for a slower producing snail. I originally got them to help remove muck from my pond, my farm pond, which, you know, if you walk out into it, you'll sink 2 to 3 feet in muck. And I know these guys are experts in removing organic matter in ponds, which is one of the main factors of muck, is just built up organic and decaying matter. So these guys go to work on it. And then I thought, maybe I'll just throw some in a tank and see how they do. And so far I've almost doubled my snail count in a matter of a few weeks. So I don't know if anyone has any interest in this type of thing, or if they have any more questions, or if they want to see more of my setup, but I do plan on doing more videos on these types of things. I do find them pretty interesting, and there's not a lot of videos of them out there. So I figured maybe I'll help and put some more content out on them. Pretty cool little snails though. These do produce live young. They're live bearers. They're not like mystery snails where they lay clutches of eggs. They will just literally produce a single, well, they can produce more than one, but from what I've seen, it's just been one snail at a time. This little guy looks like he's upside down too. One more if you wanted to see it. It's not uncommon for them to come in this rough shape. I think it's pretty standard actually, unless they're tank bred, where you can keep an eye on their nutrients. Otherwise, you can just expect to see them come in this type of shape. And I do plan on doing tank bred. I think people tend to appreciate their snails when they come in just better shape, so that's the game plan. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know if you have any questions. If you are interested in this type of material, consider liking and subscribing.